I forgot to hit the recording button. So this is going to be a little bit of a later one. Hello again. Welcome. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub, your space bar at the end of the universe. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. This is the Captain's Table, where I bring people from all over the Star Citizen universe to talk about Star Citizen. This is our 24-hour live stream special where I'm going to be awake for 24 hours. So if you've been watching these recordings, you're going to slowly seeing me become more and more punch drunk until like 7 o'clock in the morning, where I'm basically fighting to keep myself awake. So that's worth the price of admission at the very least. And I've got people together to talk about Star Citizen, specifically CitizenCon, and of course Star Citizen as a whole this year, their opinions on it, and then we'll take questions from the audience. And I'll start from this direction. Mr. Space Coder, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
Hello, everyone. I'm the Space Coder. I am a little bit of everything, really. I'm a Star Citizen content creator. I have a YouTube channel where I do a lot of explaining of things the way I see them as a software developer. And then I maintain not just one, but two community tools now. One is the Armory, which lets you find where to buy, loot, and everything else about FPS gear. And the other one is working title The Hauler, which if you chuck a bunch of hauling contracts in it, it will tell you which is the fastest route to do them in. It's pretty fun. Go break it. I don't have anything to do.
Neat. You are a madman for having that many apps you have to maintain, but that's great.
Who needs sleep?
Yes, the amount of times you've been on the Captain's Table in the past, that checks out. That is a good statement. Tyrkel, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
I am a Tyrkel. I'm a small content creator for Star Citizen. I do. I have a YouTube channel. YouTube /Tyrkel. And I focus, my actual prepared content focuses on military applications in the game, where we are typically and where I'd like to see them to go to create a more realistic but not intrusive and draconian gameplay. So capital ship gameplay, how to do maintenance, all that, which I think, they're heading a lot that way anyway. So I haven't done a whole lot of Star Citizen because my real world job, I'm still active duty, has been really crushing my soul here recently. But
the U.S. military crushing your soul? No, that's never happened.
No, it never happened. So I'm really looking forward to hopefully once the game gets a little bit more stable, which we talked about earlier, hopefully today, being able to dive back in post CitizenCon and enjoying it some.
I'd forgotten that Flint is also ex-military, so I have two ex-military who can vouch to the soul-crushing ability of state work.
Yeah.
And then finally, we have Mr. Captain Flint, who I'm sure many of you folks who've been around the community long enough will have seen his beautiful visage before. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
I dusted off the mothballs to come out of this. I'm the Halloween edition, a ghost of times past.
Times past.
So I've been a long time, like over 10 years now, I think, content creator for Star Citizen on long-term hiatus for the last couple of years because of life things, which is unfortunate. I really do miss it, but we'll see. We'll see if there's a resurgence happening at some point in the future. But in the interim, these days now, because I can't do the active scheduled stuff of creation, I've been working on a project on the side, a software project, which I'm actually excited to speak with the Space Coder about. We launched on the Friday before CitizenCon. It's called UEE Life, and it's a portal of sorts and social platform for Star Citizen. But we can talk about that later.
Sure.
I'm excited to be here to support Games Outreach and to talk Star Citizen with my peers.
I was lucky enough that you had me help beta test it a little bit and gave me access to it very early on. So I've been poking around it a little bit. So it's neat. It's a neat concept.
Well,
so
thank you.
All right. Let's just get started off with first of all, we are raising money for charity, Gamers Outreach. For those of you who don't know, I'm going to do the spiel for each one of these beginnings. Gamers Outreach is a group that works with children's hospitals to get games in children's hospitals for kids to play. They use these things called go-karts, which are made out of medical grade material, stuff that's easy for them to clean and maintain. But these carts include a console or other video game device and like everything they need to play video games. And they wheel them into these hospitals and let the kids play with them because the one thing that sucks as a kid is, being stuck out of your normal routine is not fun. And then being in a hospital, which really aren't meant for kids, is not fun. So having something that can kind of keep your mind off of things helps the kids feel better. And it really does improve the spirits. And, stress is a big factor for healing. So having kids be less stressful is always good. So we've been raising money for them. We've raised $1,000 so far, which is amazing. And our goal is to get through $3,500 because at $3,500, it will be one cart, and that will be a cart donated by the Star Citizen community to Gamers Outreach. So it's a fantastic organization that I've worked with for several years, and our own Crucian is the one who works with the company directly, works for them. So it's a great time. All right. Let's start off with just vibes of CitizenCon. Flint, you were at CitizenCon, right?
I was. I managed to get there in person with a couple of buddies of mine. The mood in the room, apart from one point where there was like deafening silence, but the mood of the room in general was very high energy. For good reason. They really pulled it off for this event. It's the most amount of people I've seen in one place for a while. I've been to a bunch of Star Citizens now, including last year in LA. Star Citizens.
CitizenCon.
CitizenCon. Yeah, it's early.
Yeah.
I've been to a bunch of them now, including last year. And LA last year was pretty big. It was pretty big, but this time it was something else. The hangar they had the talks in was vast. And then the large social area with that giant spaceship. And then the community booth area. I spent a bunch of time there pimping my project, of course, but speaking to the orgs that had set up community booths, and that was fantastic. But talks wise, I'm hyped. I know there's been a bit of drama in the last few days since CitizenCon about various things. We know the community likes to react aggressively to any perceived hurt that's been thrown their way. But on the whole, I am so jazzed about having finally a cohesive vision of what Star Citizen intending to be, of seeing how some core old and new game systems are going to tie into that vision, and also just to see where they're at with Squadron, and the fact that does look spectacular. If you bear in mind it's a tutorial intro and not like a whole piece of the game. So
Yeah.
no, I'm pretty pumped.
Awesome. Atira, vibes on CitizenCon. Were you able to catch some of it?
I caught so day one, I caught the back half. I woke up, went downstairs, drank my coffee, and then realized, crap. So I ran over, turned everything on. My kids are screaming at me, and I started watching. It was great. Day two, I woke up and it was done. So I just went back, my org, we all just sat back down and rewatched the whole day two, and enjoyed it. General vibes is just kind of like what Captain Flint said. That one moment where everybody was super quiet, and then otherwise it was pretty exciting.
Let's be clear. We're talking about the 2026 date drop, right? Where everyone was just like, "What did I just see?"
Well, there was also another really big one then for the Pioneer discussion.
Oh yeah.
Where they changed that. Maybe not as quiet.
Yeah.
As
more
as
shocked.
2026.
Yeah. Rather than like confused.
Yeah. But yeah, and every new panel after the first one about biomes, we were getting more and more excited about where they were going. And I thought they demonstrated some really fantastic and unique new capabilities for the game. And I think their 1 year mark is perhaps ambitious, but still, if they get half of what they talked about in CitizenCon, and that's going to be really killer. I think then, yeah, a lot of people, I definitely felt it was exciting the whole way through.
Space Cutter, you were there. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and holy crap, Squadron 42.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So excited for that.
Space Cutter, you were there as well. So since you caught the crud.
There.
Uh,
I was there, and it was my first CitizenCon, and I picked the biggest one yet.
yeah.
As an introvert, it was basically 4 days of internal screaming.
That's it.
But shockingly, 0 panic attacks. So great success on my end. Even managed to man our booth for 3 hours, and the only thing I lost was my voice. So if I sound weird, blame CitizenCon. But no, it was great. The energy was great. Didn't catch anything of the panels because I was just talking to people. So I had to rewatch the whole thing.
That is a problem when you're there, because often you'll get pulled. People will recognize you and pull you, and then you also want to talk with folks and that kind of thing. So you kind of lose track.
Yeah, that was the weird part for me. is that I was shocked by how many people recognized me or recognized the armory, and I was even more shocked by. I talked to pretty much every CIG person who was there, and every single one of them knew who I was. And everyone was like, "Oh, I use the armory." And I was like, "Oh, cool. I don't know how to handle this situation, so I'm just gonna sit here awkwardly."
You could just take a 2-year hiatus and no one recognized you at all. Even Noodle took about 10 minutes for the pin to drop. So
Yeah.
it was like, wait,
I know who you. Yeah.
Fortunately for me, people know the armory logo and not my face. So they recognize the jacket I was wearing, but not me.
For an introvert, that's perfect.
Yeah, so I kind of accidentally put that layer of separation on me, and then the only people who were brave enough to ask me about it got to talk to me, and then there were a bunch of people that I talked to. So,
and if you're not ready, you just say, "Well, I just like the app, man."
Exactly.
I had a similar experience last year because people who knew me as TheAstroPub knew my face. But a lot of times people would hear me talk and they'd stop. It was great last year. Like literally I was talking with, I think, Zero, and someone walked by, and it was this moment where they walked by and I'm talking, and then they stop, turn as I'm still talking. I'm like, "Hello?" And they're like, "Are you the Astro historian?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Wait, you recognize me from my voice?" Because I don't usually show my face a lot on the Astro historian. So it's weird feeling, man. It is a weird feeling because you
I had the same thing meeting people I know from ADI. Because I walk into the group and I start talking, and they're all like, "Who's that guy? I've never seen this guy before, but I recognize him from somewhere."
Yeah.
And then the few people who know my face, they're like, "Come on, you know who that is."
Yeah.
How? Interesting, fun trivia story, real quick before we move on. Space Coder, we almost met in person. You may recall we were in the line waiting to get in day one, and I was stood with a couple of his org mates and
Oh yeah, you were the guy with McGee.
Like, yeah, and your org mates were like, "Space Coder!" And like, "You need to speak to this guy." I was like, "Hi, we'll speak later."
And then you never did.
Across the line. And then didn't find the whole rest of the thing.
Specific people at CitizenCon was insane. Somewhere, hour 2, day 1, Jake tells me, "Hey, by the way, Freya is looking for you." And I'm like,
the community manager?
Is Freya?
Yeah.
And then I go look for her. Then 2 hours after, I realized, wait, I don't know how this. I don't know what this person looks like. So I go back to Jake, and he gives me a description of this person. I don't find this person. So day 2, I go to Jake again. I'm like, maybe today I find her. And then push comes to shove, and one of the volunteers radios her to where I was.
Wow.
Okay. She shows up, and I'm like, "Jake told me apparently you're looking for me." And she's like, "I'm looking for you?"
Wow. What?
So then she runs off to ask Jake, "What the hell?" And then that gets called off. And I go get some tea, and we spend the rest of the day looking for each other. And then she leaves a message at the ADI booth for me saying she's going to message me on Spectrum, and then she doesn't. So I am very confused, Freya. If you're watching, just message me on Spectrum. This is not doing good things for my anxiety.
What have you done to our poor boy?
Man.
In terms of your overall feeling of CitizenCon, though, was it good, bad?
Oh, I had a good time. Besides the part where I lost my voice halfway through it, and I sounded like a skeleton trying to talk.
Okay.
No, it was great.
I
Loved it.
Let's move on to the more negative parts. Was there anything in CitizenCon that you were not a fan of, or maybe you thought they were going to talk about but they didn't talk about, or something that you just didn't like, or like were kind of more down about? I'll start with you on this one, Space Coder, and then move back reverse.
Well, my number one thing that I didn't like about the whole thing has nothing to do with CitizenCon, and that is that I forgot how damp it is in the UK. And
It is a rainy place.
yeah, no, I got off the plane in London. I'm like, oh yeah, smells about as wet as I remember.
I have
And then
a coworker that is going on vacation in December in UK.
That
It's
sounds.
like,
Oof.
why are you doing that?
They
to
love the
yourself?
rain. They must love the rain and the cold. You know.
Oh man, they must. Yeah.
And then from the moment I arrived to the moment I boarded the plane out, I was drenched in sweat because it is so humid in that place. Why would anybody live on that island? But in terms of CitizenCon, kind of the really worst things for me was that they delayed the opening by 90 minutes and we stood out there in the rain for 90 minutes extra, which was not fun. And the line wrapped pretty much
no.
all the way around the building to where you're like next to the heating unit for the venue, and you're thinking like, are we just like queuing for the sake of queuing at this point? What are we doing here? And then I get a message from someone who is further up the line telling me that someone out front told them that the whole thing is delayed by an hour, and we're like all the way in the back, so the whole thing. And yeah, the whole 2026 for Squadron for it's kind of like 2 more years for a game that's supposedly done and being polished.
Yeah.
It's a little sus, but other than that, it was all right. The community booth area was a little cramped, and I bumped accidentally into about 100 people while just trying to move around, and the queue for coffee took like half an hour, which is not very good for my mental health. But
That is that is standard con, unfortunately. No matter what convention you go to, it's like an hour to do anything in involving food or merch. So
yeah, the big complaint I heard from people personally, I didn't go into the merch line because I'm pretty sure the merch line was there from opening until closing.
Mhm.
It was just there and it has not moved, and I'm convinced it's still there.
Wow.
So that's the big complaint I heard, that they had I think I heard some people tell me that they waited for 4 hours in the merch line.
that would be surprised.
So
That
yeah,
day
so
one of 20 of last year was
So
the
what?
same.
They had it playing on YouTube in their earbud, so that they could, or Twitch, so that they could find
Watching
out what
it.
was going on.
Yeah.
Jeez.
and yeah, there was no reception at the venue, and the Wi-Fi sucked. And I promised a bunch of people I would like go live on their stream from the con, and I had to cancel last minute. So I kind of felt bad about that. But yeah, other than that, it was great.
Kel, any negative aspects of CitizenCon?
Just being in the States and waking up and having day 2 be over
No,
at like 8 in the morning.
yeah,
Yeah, obviously the 2026 thing was a buzzkill, right? I mean, day 1 they showed that amazing video, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I want to play. Just give me the prologue. That'll be fun enough, right? And then yeah, they 2026 banner came up. For me, I mean, I'm sitting in my freaking pajamas watching the stream, so I didn't have any of the physical and emotional challenges that the other guys had actually being on the site trying to get everywhere on time and see everything. So for me, really, it was just the delay of Squadron. That was a bummer. I thought, yeah, as I watched, I skipped over a lot of the when they would go out to the community area and stuff. I would just like flip through that because
yeah, it's
I don't
film.
know.
It's
I
between
felt like
time.
some of that was a bit awkward, and
It's-
it was fine. I was like, I'll forward through that. And then cosplay was okay, but it was. I thought, again, like I said, I was fairly positive all around. I liked everything they showed.
Flint. Any negatives from CitizenCon for you?
I actually have a few.
Okay.
I'm gonna balance them out with like I understand why.
Okay.
But
We're going to talk about
it feels
positives after
like-
this. So it's more of a.
yeah, no.
I want to do the compliment sandwich. So
So I'm gonna point to the merch line. Like by the time we got in, and the merch line was full for like 3 hours. So the good stuff, when we finally managed to get the merch line on day 2, was gone. The event specific Pico, the event like box of like challenge coins and key rings and stuff was
Mhm.
gone. The awesome bomber jacket gone. Like
So
anything
they
that
didn't
was
give you a challenge coin in your bag?
we
Mhm.
did, yes, but there's always like a special pack.
Ah.
Last year that pack was part of your goodie bag.
Mhm.
This year we had a different thing. We actually had some good stuff, but yeah. So I was disappointed that the merch was such that they didn't have enough for everyone to get what they wanted. So we didn't get some of the event specific stuff, which is sad. On the talk side, obviously a little disappoint around 2026. I'm going to balance that out by saying that polish on video games does take a long time, off sometimes 1 to 3 years. So in CIG time, with how shiny Chris is going to want it polished, it makes sense that that's a long duration, right? But it's still disappointment. While also kind of glad that they're going to take the time to get it right. We're just make sure it's done within a time scale that is actually still relevant. And then yeah, I think other than that, like the only other big thematic thing is like again balanced out by the fact that this is what they needed to do. They needed to show the vision. They needed to show like these really cool forward-looking things. But one thing this CitizenCon lacked that we've had in previous ones is a short-term kind of this is what you can expect in the short term. We can speculate that we'll get a bunch of the things that he talks about at some point, but we don't have any kind of strong roadmap into next year of like, okay, these are what you should expect early,
By
middle, late
patch.
next year,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
To give us some expectation of that. It was very high level and fluffy. Again, it's what they needed to do, but that was probably my key disappointments.
It's funny because Crew said almost the exact same thing last panel. It's the same issue. I'm sure that's going to be a kind of an echoing theme for a lot of this panel and probably for the entire community. Is it's nice to
Right.
see these cool things, but we don't know when they're coming, and we'd like to know more about what is coming and that we can expect next year, so that we can prepare ourselves and get hyped or interested, and should we prepare? Because I might be somebody who's really into the I don't know, the crafting side of things, but not knowing how much of that crafting is coming into the game in next year, will determine if I should be getting into Star Citizen now versus later, or even if I should, focus on something else. So, all right, let's do the positive sides. What is your favorite part of the show? Because now that we've talked about these sort of more negative parts, what's the favorite part of the show? I'll start with you, Flint.
Oh, there's too many to list, man. I'm gonna pick two. There is way more than two. Like some of the technology stuff they're showing off, like the Doppler sound stuff, the like the new terrains and how they're building that. All of that was amazing. On Planet, it was all about the like the weather system for me. Like base building, I'm going to speak about it in a second, but the weather system, like having something that is that immersive, but also that does impact you, and gives you those decision points on do I fly through this thing, do I drive through this thing, or do I knuckle down and hide? Right, going way back to the first time we saw the Valacar, they talked about, yeah, so weather systems will prevent you flying to certain locations, so you have to park your ship and drive in. They talked about that back then, but to see that come full circle, to both see the Valacar, but also to see those weather effects and see how it's affecting things. And I was chatting with the devs at the Atmo event afterwards, and they said, yeah, we had to do that take a bunch of times because it was all real and dynamic. And like a few times the ship just got blown up trying to escape. So they had to do another run, and then seeing that Aurora get blown up by the lightning, like all of that was like real crap that's happening in those weather systems. So seeing the real like risk and reward of like dealing with that is like amazing to finally see that. And then just to touch on base building, I'm sure people can talk about that a lot with the other two, but like that, but into space stations. I doubt that I'll be, unless I plug myself into one of these big orgs, hi ADI. Like I'm unlikely to be in a position where we'll be able to build our own station, but the opportunities of that are immense. So yeah, super jazzed about those two things.
Awesome. To give context to chat as well, because last year something similar would happen with the demonstration they were doing of like their big long demonstration they did at the beginning of the show, where they had like the Gladiators fly down and they had like the water displays, and they shot up that outpost and they crashed it. I was talking to Jake last year, and they said, yeah, that was like their fourth take. They did that all live in game, and the splines was just the camera that they'd already set up, but those were all real like CIG developers flying through and doing those things. And so at one point, it literally a piece of debris literally went over and smashed the camera. So like knocked the camera away because it was a physicalized camera. So when it came over it, and so they had to kind of retake it. So they do that a lot with CIG. They do not like to just kind of pre-render stuff. They want to do it in engine and do it live if they can, because that's to give that most authentic feel. Kel, favorite parts of CitizenCon?
So I'm gonna go top level, and I'm gonna say I'm glad that they set a finite goal for 1.0.
Okay.
Right. I'm glad that they said we're gonna do 5 systems. This is what you're gonna get. Take it or leave it. We understand that we promised 100 systems, and that's not a reality if we want to release this in any type of timely fashion. So I was very appreciative that they kind of set that goal for themselves. And along with that comes, we saw a great, we saw going back to Delamar and with the same music, all the feels, man, like all the memories, right?
Going
hanging out at
home.
Delamar. That
Going
was
home.
fantastic. And then showing was it Castro, right? Am I saying it right?
Yeah. Castro.
Yeah. So that was great too. So I understand that that's probably not anywhere near the final product or the actual build maybe, but like I think being able to say these are the 5 places we're going to give you for 1.0, nothing more. So now when we start talking about Castra, right, on Inside Star Citizen, boy, we'll know that like they're actually getting pretty close, which is nice, right? It's nice to kind of see that. And the other thing, I do a lot of ground stuff, combat stuff. And so I actually appreciate the changes in Dress to Kill and the way they've adjusted that. I thought that was pretty great. Being able to layer on civilian clothes or fabric clothes on top of your or below your armor. So I thought that's a pretty cool thing. I know a lot of people wanted that for ages, but I thought that's going to be a really nice little thing to create some diversity in the way people look. Right? They're not all just wearing hard plate armor everywhere they go. And I know I know I do a lot of military stuff, and I love MISC, and I think the freaking Star Lancer is pretty good looking.
Yeah.
And I saw their yeah, it looks really good. And I saw somebody in my org posted like all the other concept arts, and I was like, all of those look horrible and like the and convoluted. So I'm really happy they went with the design that they did. It looks really really good. It had me like I was hovering over the buy, and then I was like, I don't need that.
I did not have your restraint. I got both because
the mouse was slowly moving towards the buy. So
the 5 systems are not gonna pay for themselves.
It was a pretty looking ship. It was really good. I'll tell you where they're gonna get my money. They're gonna get my money on that ship if they introduce down the road a salvage variant.
Ooh.
Right? As I will immediately upgrade my Drake Vulture to that, because I do like the way MISC's industrial design is. So that's where they'll capture my heart right there.
Supposedly, one of those silhouettes is a MISC salvage ship, so will be interesting to see that. But as Captain Flint pointed out, it's hard not to look at the Starlancer and get them Firefly vibes. It is very Firefly in its appearance. So
yeah, well, that and the Carrack, but the Carrack's I think too big.
It's
this
huge.
is more, I think, what Serenity was, right? And
Yeah.
and it's great. Yeah,
Yeah. Heavy
yeah.
cargo, got a med bay, got a communal area, got individual cabins. It takes all of the boxes that would make
Individual
Serenity.
suites,
Yeah.
which they had right
Mhm.
down the So give me a medium salvage on that thing, and you'll have my money. So
Dar's just pointing out that the Carrack is the same size as Serenity. Yeah, but you also have to remember that Serenity has an interior and exterior, and the interior shots are a lot more cozy compared to the exterior shots. Like all TV shows, the interior and the exterior are never the same. So it gets more of that feel, more of that vibe, even though it's a slightly smaller. So, nope, the interior fits the exterior.
he's just trolling now.
Yeah.
Hollywood is always accurate.
Well, even if it's meticulous, it's not even just about the actual dimensions. It's also about how you film, and filming is going to be different in terms of its perception. So they want to make you feel smaller or feel larger. They'll use different lenses and stuff like that. And in the Serenity never felt big. It felt big in the cargo bay, but like the places where people lived never felt big. It always felt intimate.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Anyway,
People
so I guess that's 3 things I liked.
Yeah.
I mean,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say those are good things. I'm excited, like say for the Stardrobe update to the Armory, for example, is gonna be great. And also like I think
That's a lot of code I'm gonna have to write, and I'm already forgetting it.
If you need a hand. But no, and then the other piece, like the having a concise deliverable, honestly, I think that's a Tyra effect. That guy's a machine, and again, chatting to some CIG devs, so like, we made him have slides for that presentation, but he could have just stood there and rattled it off because he knows the project so intimately now, and is the one driving for this is how we ship a game.
Mm-hmm.
So I call it the Tyre effect.
Tyre has been every dev who I've heard talk about Richard Tyre has nothing but glowing praise for him because of his like he is so gameplay focused. He's so focused on the end user, and he has a lot of like he comes at it from the direction that a game director would have, which is this is what we need, and these are the steps we're going to get there, and then I'm going to give my teams the power to get it done. And then we'll look at it later and fix it as we need to, rather than being like super micromanagey or super just like whatever, man. Like he's got that right mentality. So, Space Coder, go ahead.
They have a propensity. Sorry, they have a propensity for scope creep. So it's nice that they've set a hard goal.
Space Coder, best parts of CitizenCon.
Well, number one, the new music tracks that they put out with all the demos. Because I was mostly hearing it because I was talking to people and I was not watching, so I was hearing it, and so that was my live experience of it. And
Pedro needs a raise.
Yeah, true.
Pedro and Jeff need a raise. Yeah. Those are just some amazing. Oh my god.
Yeah, the Castra soundtrack, amazing. Like that actually made me like.
Goosebumps.
I was talking to someone. I was like, "Hold on a second. I need to like look.
Yeah.
What is this? Like, why is there this choral music coming out of the screen right now?" And second, I don't think this is going to surprise anyone, but it was the not economy panel that was about economy.
Which one was that?
Like the moment they said inflation, I was like, oh, so we are addressing it now.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm listening. For those of you who are subscribed to my channel, next week we're going to have a very long video on how inflation and monetary policy works.
Yes.
Because the only thing, look, I have a minor in economics.
Woo! Economics.
And this is literally the only thing I'm putting it to use for.
I know that feeling. I teach economics for a living, and it's the only thing I can say is like I could teach economics. I'm technically an economist, and I have very little low level knowledge of it. And even then, it surprises me how much people don't know how economics works. So I've been looking forward to them talking about money sinks and dealing with inflation and how that's going to function. And
They kind of give us a hint on how they want to do it, but I think they have to do more things because the math isn't mathing, at least for me so far, but I have some ideas, which I will present.
I'm looking forward to that video.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, all the, if they introduce fractional banking, I'm out. Like,
oh no, oh no, no. Oh gosh, I don't want them to introduce
for those of you who don't know
securities.
what fractional banking is, it is the thing that's ruining the world's economy right now. Google it and be horrified.
Yeah, as long as they don't start bringing in securities and having to deal with that various headache.
Well, you see that's kind of the thing, right? So in the real world, the central banks and the governments have a lot of ways to deal with inflation and deflation.
Yeah.
The problem is that this is a game, so monetary policy doesn't exist. That there is no way to implement monetary policy, so you kind of have to go with the non-monetary monetary policies, like taxes and just removing money from people, because technically the supply of credits and resources in Star Citizen is infinite.
There's no scarcity.
Yeah. So either you have to introduce scarcity somehow, and that's how you introduce securities, by giving yourself the ability to take money away from the UEE and give it to the corporations and the players, or vice versa. And then we get into some very, very, very fucked up shit. And we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be a nightmare. And I already have a mortgage in real life. I don't need a mortgage in Star Citizen.
Yeah, we don't want to sit here and start talking about how are you going to stimulate the economy by getting jobs in game to function for NPCs. No one wants to hear that talk.
Just buy UE bonds.
Yeah. Oh God. Jesus Christ. Like, there's a reason why they call the economics the dreary science. We don't need to bring that level of dreariness into the into the universe.
But realism.
We gotta remember that. Dial it back to fun.
Yes. Yeah.
Start with realism and dial it back to
fun. Way back.
Way back.
Listen, aren't you all looking forward to filling out your tax forms at the end of the year in Star Citizen so you can get your rebate and
uninstall?
Having to calculate.
What do you mean the UE doesn't give tax refunds?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They give you a stimulus package because you're homesteading and right UEE property, so you can have a tax write off, so you can your income taxes.
Yeah, UEE's like, we know exactly how much tax you owe, but we want you to tell us so we know you're lying.
Straight to Collectioner. Right away.
All right. With that being said, let's talk more about Star Citizen as a whole this year. We're first going to, I'll start with you on this one, Space Coder. Was this year good or bad for Star Citizen? And it doesn't have to be necessarily good or bad. Was it somewhere in between? What is your feelings about Star Citizen in 2024?
Well, compared to 2022 and 23, I think we actually got a lot done this year.
Okay.
We had a lot of content come out. We had cargo come out finally. We had lots of improvements to salvage. We had a bunch of ships come out. We did not quite get there with server meshing. But CIG have demonstrated on multiple occasions that it works. And it just needs a little bit of tweaking. And they seem to be actively working on it. And, 3 months ago, if you asked me are we going to have 4.0 by the end of the year, I would say, hell no. That's never going to happen. That's like a Q2 problem. Now, I'm actually like, you know what? It's almost November. They have 2 months-ish until the end of the year. I am told that they have gone to weekend work. That's what I'm told.
Yeah, they actually got blasted in the media for that.
Well,
I didn't read the articles, but
that was mandatory. That was mandatory.
Yeah.
Now CIG does this every so often And
Yeah.
here's the secret, and this is one of the things that a lot of people uh, I've heard this for years now, which is CIG works on the weekend. They've always worked on the weekends. It's just a matter of who's working on the weekends. Now they're scheduling people to work on the weekends who typically don't. So like usually QA, a lot of the support staff, they need to be on the weekends because if a server implodes, you need someone there to figure it out. But
and I mean, kind of the thing with sort of very high level software development, which Star Citizen is, it's a software product. No matter how you guys want to package it, it's a software product. At that level of number of consumers, it's not uncommon for people to work 7 days a week. I would know because I'm supposed to be at work right now.
Yeah, and also in the games industry in general, crunch is a thing.
Yeah, crunch is a thing.
Crunch for deadlines, crunch for ships, and again, we chatted to some devs at CitizenCon. That topic came up, and like, yeah, I don't know why people are so weird about it. Like, we get days off in lieu for every day we work. We take them off after we get past the deadline.
They also have
Exactly.
2 weeks in December. Like at the end of the year, they get basically 2 to 3 weeks just off.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and they laid on like breakfast and lunch for everyone. So when they came in, they had like free food, and they took care of them, but they needed the crunch to get CitizenCon out the door. And
that's kind of a bunch of the conversations. Like I talked to a lot of CIG devs at the event, and a lot of them said exactly what Flint just said, and that's okay. As a software developer, I would be like, yeah, fair enough. They give me breakfast. I would be like, but I have to go to the office on a Saturday, or I have to go to the office. Period. But that's just me. But yeah, I think we had a good year. I think we are not gonna have 4.0 live by the end of the year, but I think we're gonna have some BTU of 4.0. But yeah, I think it was a good year. I see it in the community. We had a very active year as a community. I see it on YouTube. Lots of people came back. Lots of people are looking for Star Citizen content. And recently I have delved into the very strange world of TikTok. And turns out the demand for Star Citizen on that platform is unsatiable.
Oh yeah,
for some reason.
We had Botox.
I have no TikTok, so that's my first heard.
Yeah,
really?
But yeah, the Botox, who was on the last panel, is a TikToker, and I've followed him on TikTok for a while. Him and Citizen Talk are pretty big. They get a lot of views. Now TikTok, you got to remember, is a different platform, so you have a lot more views, like because it's only a couple minutes long at most. So there are videos that they can get which are like millions of views.
Yep.
But that doesn't transform into monetary millions of views like it does on YouTube. Yeah. So, but there is, I mean, Facebook is still pretty big when it comes to Star Citizen content. And I will say, since CitizenCon, since CIG finally said there's a story to this in both Squadron 42 and Star Citizen, like my metrics for the Astrohistorian have been going just people like, oh, there's a story. Let's look it up. And it's like, I'm the only one who has anything to do with it. So it's just all there now. So, which is good for me.
Certainly there's a reason to know why anything happened in history and how that might have impacted the story. Yeah.
I had an interesting discussion with somebody on another creator on Twitter. And he said, I started looking into it after they started talking about it. And he's like, I understand why Paul does this because this is insane. It's like, once you start digging and keep digging, you go, wow, there's a lot more than just surface level on this. They've spent a lot of time thinking about this universe. So,
yeah, I mean, there's the throwaway line that Dave Haddock said when he was doing his little panel at CitizenCon around, we are finally able to bring some of the story that we've been working on for 12 years into the game. Now, 12 years of a team of writers can write a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's like many, many novels worth of stuff they've been working on over the years. So yeah, it's exciting to see it finally like come together.
And it's fun to talk to Dave about it because everyone on that writing team has a different speciality. So like some of them are like history, some of them are science based, some of them are more more corporate or other things like that. Like they have different interests and styles that they like. So Dave can be like, this is a question for this writer. And so they've been working together for so long that they can just kind of riff off each other super quick. So it's interesting to see how much that's going to go up in the next couple of years. So, Kel, overall, good year, bad year for Star Citizen. What do you think?
I'm just going to say it was blanket good, though about 6 months in, I tapered off on gameplay. I kept watching all of their content, and yeah, I mean, like Space Coder said, a whole bunch of stuff has come out. We've gotten a lot of new ships, cargo, and the way they've reshaped hangars. The Atlas, which introduces a whole new way to do cargo movement rapidly, all of which is really cool, which of course builds to the larger Titan suits. That to me that is just a test bed for how do I make a mechanical suit and then right create
Yes.
weaponize it, right? Like
Yes.
we have to create something,
Give me mech
and then
CIG. Give me
yeah,
stompy mech fight suits.
so that's just their test bed to see if it works without any of the guns and armor. Um, but yeah, I think it was a good year in general. Lots of content. It was for the most part a pretty stable year as far as gameplay. If I wanted to get on, I could get on and play a couple of hours with zero problem, which I enjoyed. Um, but yeah, unfortunately, my ability to commit to 3-4 hours of Star Citizen kind of tapered off about
Yeah.
about 5-6 months ago, and I was like, oh man, I don't have the energy to get on for 3 hours for a gameplay session. So, but yeah, I think in general it's been good. I look forward to the introduction of Pyro,
Okay.
right? Because I did jump in on their test bed, absolutely, right, when they let us jump in on that,
Mhm.
and that's probably the most fun I had all year. So I'm really looking forward to when that releases formally and we can go do it all the time.
And Flint, your thoughts on? I know you've not been necessarily been doing a lot of creation content, but have you been able to follow along with Star Citizen over the last year or so?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always following along. I religiously watch whatever Jared's putting out.
Yeah.
I jump in when I can. The last few months specifically, I've had little time to jump in because the choice was jump in or grind out UE Life to try and get that shit by CitizenCon. And in the theme of crunching,
Yeah.
that took priority, right? But I do drop in and listen to my usual group playing and hear all the trials and tribulations and fun. And the few times I've dropped in, it has felt, I mean, current patch notwithstanding, it has felt smoother. It has felt more put together. I love what they've done with like moving forward, like the HUDs and all those aspects of the ships, right? And tuning out the combat models and like the things they've added over the year have all been like big leaps in the forward direction. We have to remember that CitizenCon last year, what they showed us blew our minds of like, wow, this is crazy. And he says it's all going to come in 12 months. Has everything made it in? No, but probably 95% of stuff has in some form. Um, and that's crazy because we think back on previous years, like how much actual meaty content we've got over the years. This has been like a next level amount of stuff that we've received, and we can't lose sight of that. And then alongside that, right, talking about 4.0 when that will arrive, the fact it's already gone into NDA free Ivacati is a good sign that they feel like it's shaping up well, which gives me confidence that we will see it by end of year. Actually, I want to see if I can bring back an old meme. If the Astropub thinks it definitely won't arrive by end of year, then I definitely do think it'll arrive by end of year.
Well, I'm the
But yeah,
opposite, so we'll see that. So
yeah.
I think it is going to arrive at the end of the year. So we may be in a rare synergy moment where we've
Maybe,
not repulsed
or
each other.
alternatively, now I don't think it will. I think we're screwed by end of year now, so gotta
Yep.
keep going. But also like the fact that we have seen those server meshing tests, and they're pushing 1,000, 2,000 people, and it's jank, of course. But they
Yeah.
need to do that to be able to find those bottlenecks, find those issues. Again, I'm gonna refer back to my projects a bunch because why not?
Go
Like
for it.
we tested a bunch on UE Life, and then it shipped, and then the weirdest bugs just keep falling out. The more people are in there, the more weird bugs fall out. Like I found out that people couldn't sign up with an email longer than 15 characters. Like I didn't even think to check that, right?
Yeah.
That's our auth provider. But yeah, so finding out those bugs and bottlenecks, getting that good data, fixing, and then bringing it up a week later and pushing the limits even further, I think is fantastic. So yeah, so I think again, net a great year. We've had some bumps on the way, but that's normal for Star Citizen. And then just considering like 2.0, that first day of like how many seconds can we stay in to where we're at today is insane to think about. Like having 12-person servers up to having regularly like a couple of hundred people per server and pushing the boundaries again. So I think it's a great year. I think next year is going to be insane. And I'm pumped. I'm pumped to see all the stuff we're going to get and start actually being able to invest in it as a game.
Mhm.
I think is all good stuff.
That kind of good kind of segue, because the last question we'll ask before we go into question and answers is, do you think next year is going to be a good year? Like, how's the future looking for Star Citizen as of right now? Start with you, Flint.
Yeah. I'm crazy excited. Obviously, we're gonna have a new like piece of the world, right? So everyone's going to be diving in and checking out Pyro, and then we're going to have gate gankers, and it's going to be a whole new dynamic of things that we those of us who played Eve back in the day lived through, and now we're going to be introduced into the Star Citizen universe, which is fun. I've been having this debate, and maybe that's something we can turn into a conversation a bit later on, but around like which features do we think we're going to get first, and why? Right? We've been having that debate, me and the guys we went to CitizenCon with, and think about stuff like the base building gameplay when that will arrive, 12 to 18 months, so probably next year, not next year. Um, but
Yeah.
um, but some of the things that lead up to that, so they can definitely get in like basic crafting. They can definitely get in things like the quality for materials and stuff like that. And different resources for us to collect, and getting in the Valakar and other fauna that give us resources, and adding more of these pieces, I think is going to be a big piece of next year, because those are the building blocks that lead up to being able to do large scale construction, right?
Mhm.
So I think those are going to be super exciting. And also like I think we're going to see a few drops of like more economic things as well. I also think they're going to soft launch the insurance and system, so we can get a feel for that, right? The main thing being like you'll lose your ship, right? You'll get money, and then you have to go buy a ship, because we need to have people feel how that feels to get the feedback for that. So those are some of the things think we're gonna see next year, which is gonna be polarizing for the community. But on the whole, I'm just super excited to see like the next big leap that we're gonna see over the next 12 months.
Okay. Jerry Kell, uh, what, what's the future like for Star Citizen next year?
Think it's bright. That's all I'll say. No, I'm
Is that
kidding.
what I say?
No, it's good. I think what Flint said, dress to kill. I think they're going to get the layering for clothing and armor done. I think they're uh, I think they may roll out the new planet tech so they can increase the density of our various biomes, which I think, when I looked at that, I was like, oh my gosh, where am I going to put my ship down? Oh my gosh, like it's because I mean, again, those trees are like metal spikes in the world. They don't actually go down if you set your 1,000-ton ship on the ground,
Mhm.
right?
Unless they add destruction, and then you can
Uh,
just blow away a clearing.
well, and so that's a great point. Are they going to add in their destruction at some point? I don't know. I mean, a tree or trees would certainly be a great way to bring that in and test it, right, in kind of a limited scale, to see if it just crashes the server. So that would be wonderful, because you try to park a larger ship and you end up sideways, right, because
Yeah.
the tree is a titanium spike in the ground. But yeah, so I think that would be interesting to see. I think in general, the game this year is going to be pretty exciting, right?
Okay.
If we can get to if we can get to 4.0, I don't know. I mean, if we can get Pyro launched,
Mhm.
that's such a huge milestone uh, in for the community. So and for the game, I think it would be. I think people would just be really stoked. I mean, I've already seen articles that said, you know, that have been reasonably positive, like, oh, the game's actually coming together.
Yeah.
Based on what they have planned and based on what they showed. And that's what was cool, is like everything they showed was pretty much rendered in the engine in the game. You know, even Castor, I think, was like white boxed, but in
Mhm.
in in the engine. it was exciting. So, you know, I agree. I don't think we're gonna hit base building unless it's like, hey, you can put down a hab,
Yeah.
right? Something very, very simple. Um, but crafting, absolutely. I think there are a lot of people interested in crafting. I think
Mhm.
that's gonna be exciting. So as long as you have the high quality materials in your planetary inventory, you could go to the industrial part of town, right? And craft and draw from your storage to create better weapons, better gear, better whatever. I think people will be super stoked about that. Um, I remember they said this. I don't remember when they said this. I don't remember what the benchmark was for this, but what was the benchmark? What they said when no more resets?
1.0.
That's 1.0.
Was that 1.0? I couldn't
Mhm.
remember
Yeah.
where I heard that. It makes sense. I just couldn't remember exactly where it was.
Yeah.
But I mean, just thinking about that, it's exciting. I don't think we're gonna get there. I mean, that's a long way away, but
Mhm.
couple years maybe, but still very exciting.
Yeah,
And
I do think that you're right though that I think CIG is going to do some basic plop down a base next year
yeah,
just to be like, hey, it's done, because they also want us to test it. They want us to break it. So they want us to build
yeah,
their little shack and some power generators and some resource extractors.
it'll be like one of the search
know.
and rescue habs, right?
Yeah.
Off in the middle of nowhere and
Ah,
on Microtech.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd just be like, here you go, boom, there it is. Here's a little power station that makes it work, and that'll be it.
Yeah.
And people can have that. So I maybe they'll have more, but I think they'll probably test that kind of the same way you think they may. Flint, what did you say they might test? Our memory's killing me, but same stuff, right? They'll just
yeah,
give us
yeah, yeah.
little bits and pieces, 1.0,
Yeah,
right?
basic crafting,
Basic
crafting
crafting.
machines,
Let's
stick a
test it
machine in a
all out.
station. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
there's building blocks, right? They want to prove out. You can't just drop the whole system and then do test a lot and then just they don't
Yeah.
know where the bugs are, right?
right,
It's
yeah,
an iterative process that we've seen through all these game systems where they give us a piece of it, we test it, we fall in love with it, and then they add more stuff and fully change it, and then we cry, but then we realize it's better, and then
Yeah.
that cycle continues ad nauseum.
oh yeah, and the whole, as you said earlier, the community has outrage, and then they slowly come around to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, with the whole galaxy thing, the come around has been pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then by pretty quick, I mean by the time I woke up the next day.
It was within 6 hours. Within 6 hours of them announcing it and then walking it back. For those of you who don't know, it's probably a nothing right now. Is that
This was nuts.
it was so it broke because of Execute from the Inforunners had gotten an interview with John Crew, and in the interview with John Crew said that they were not planning because Execute asked him, why are you building a dedicated base building ship when the Galaxy was already going to be a base building ship? Why are you doing two ships that have the same functionality? And John Crew said the Galaxy doesn't have a base building module. And he was like, "Would they said it in the CitizenCon panel last year that it was going to be a base building ship?"
The page said it.
Yeah.
And then all hell broke loose on Spectrum and on Twitter.
He did confirm that on Spectrum, and then for about 6 hours, the community decided that it was Bastille Day, and John Crew was the the king.
That's great.
So there were meetings, and then within 6 hours, John Crew confirmed that they are going to do a base building module with it. It's just not going to come right away. So
Yeah, I mean,
you just have to imagine, the CIG office in Manchester with the crowd of backers with torches and pitchforks out front the meeting is happening on the top floors, and they're like, we got to build a building module for the Galaxy. Otherwise, they're going to break in, and that's going to be it.
Well, I mean, and it makes sense. That guy, I feel so bad for John Crew, right? Because he's got, I don't even know what the number is now, 170, 180 ships that he's got to know.
Over 200.
Over 200 now. He's got to have all that locked in his mind.
Yeah.
And he's got to remember everything he's ever said about it, because if he misspeaks one time, everybody loses their shit, because he is the subject matter expert on all things ships, right? And then why are they building a standalone ship? Because daggone it, modularity is a different nut to crack than just building a ship that does a thing.
And why not?
Right? So
Why not?
Having multiple ships doing the same thing is not shocking in the Star Citizen universe.
No.
Like we
Yeah,
have
that too,
Drake
right?
and RSI and MISC
Maybe-
versions of things.
Yeah.
Maybe you just like the way the galaxy looks, and so you want that ship, or maybe you want a different ship, right?
Well-
You want the MISC ship that does the same thing,
Yeah.
and there's nothing
mean-
wrong with competition, and it
Look,
actually lends itself to reality.
I actually want to buy the Galaxy at the IE when it starts, whenever it starts.
Mhm.
Not like the construction module was like nice to have, but like I am being realistic given the construction panel is that I am probably never gonna need to build something that's gonna require a large drone.
Mhm.
I know like 100 people that have a Pioneer.
Yeah, that's
And it's just like
Yeah.
within the immediate surrounding of people that I talk to.
Yeah.
Hey
So, like,
Coder,
if I'm-
do you need a base built?
yeah.
And they all
Pretty
come
much.
in.
Then I actually find out that within ADI base building falls under the division which I'm the director of, which I was like, oh, I should maybe rewatch the panel.
Panel.
Yeah.
But no,
I mean-
I actually wanted the refinery module because the expanse is nice, but given the way I see they're going with crafting and resource extraction, I don't think the Galaxy or the expanse is gonna be very good at it. So I would like to have a Galaxy for it.
Well,
because
it's
it has
like
targets.
entry level, right? It's an entry level refining ship, and that's fine.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You got to start somewhere, right? It'll be a lot cheaper than the
Oh yeah.
the modular Dorito,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know. And so you start there, you earn money, and then you go buy your modular Dorito.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have an expanse. I bought the expanse when they announced it, and now I'm like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm gonna go for the Galaxy and the refinery module, just
So you're
because
like
I know
me.
the
I'm an
scale
upgrade.
at which I will need to be refining. And well, CAG kind of ruined my 400i, so it's gonna be a Galaxy now because
Yeah.
look, they took away my component redundancy, and that just kind of like means I'm gonna have to take it out behind the hangar and shoot it. It's
I mean, it might change again. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm all for.
but I have a Zeus for the same thing, so like don't need a 400i anymore.
Right. I mean, not everyone needs every ship, right? Like I'm all about, as you know from my project, UE Life. I'm all about like the social glue that connects both citizens and also organizations together. And like some of the things that Eve did well was supporting like big endeavors. Like there was an org that would. Their whole thing was like, we will build you a station. You give us money, we
Yeah.
build you a station. We have the
Yep.
resources, we have the equipment. I would love to see the same thing in the verse, like having an organization who has a fleet of pioneers and shipbuilding ships and have like
speaking of UE Life, I have 2.5 comment. I'm looking at it. I'm 2.5 comment.
I
My
look
half
forward to hearing
comment.
that.
No, we're doing it live.
Okay, let's go. What you got?
So my half comment is the background. It needs to be a little darker because my dyslexic ass can't read any of this.
Fair enough.
That's my half comment. Just
Good feedback. I'm making a note in the Discord right now.
and my one note is that the thing needs a code for me to sign up, and I would like a code. And my note number 2 is there's an Urkel link, but there is no Armory link. This is heresy.
I know. I like the I initially wrote this 5 years ago. And I've updated everything. Well, the entire like site, backend, database, everything was rebuilt from scratch, but some of the content remains from 5 years ago. So I am fixing that. The code is in. I just haven't pushed it to live. I can get you a code, and I'm making a note about.
I've already got him a code. I just sent it to him in DM.
Oh, perfect.
Thank
And
you.
then you will have 5 buddy codes, and then your buddy
Yeah.
will have 5 buddy codes, and it will explode from there. So
Yeah.
you are good with
Just
that.
drop it live. Come on, man.
Also,
Press the button.
Oh yeah,
See,
yeah.
he does it every Friday.
Because he wants a 4.0 level of bonfire on his side. I'm sure.
Nice. But in a little feature preview with the background, as you mentioned it. So we're adding the ability for you to set your home location, your headquarters for your organ for your person, and I'll be changing the background based on the system that you are, or the theme based on the system that you are in. So I have a pyro background ready to go.
Nice.
I'm just working on the scheming for the rest of the text and stuff, and I'll need one for obviously for Castro and stuff as well. But good feedback. I will make sure we darken that down. It's literally an in-game screenshot that I took.
No, I know. I can see it,
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
just like, oh yeah, that's.
I actually really
text is
like it,
kind of
but I-
almost
but
the
I get
same
your point,
color.
yeah.
And, No, I like this. I kind of had to scroll through it while you guys were talking, and
I've
I
had it up
enjoy
for a
it.
while, flipping through it. Yeah,
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
yeah.
MyFirstWebsite.com.
I do have one thing though for prediction that I would like to see. I would love to see them because my whole shtick is like, what do we need in addition to what they've already promised? And I do think what we need is a smaller space station and maybe a medium space station.
So like tiers.
Yeah,
Uh,
we were sitting there watching this in my org, and our orgs maybe. I mean, we're big, but we don't have. I would say we're a medium to small. We're like in that category right there. And we were looking at this and we're like, there's no way, given the materials required for that station, are we going to be able to build one of those? And Flint said the same thing. Unless you join some super org, the odds of you building that huge station is pretty low. And it was like, yeah, but why can't we have a smaller station that makes sense for smaller friend groups to work towards, right? I think base building over time, anybody can achieve that, right? Slowly over time. But that space station, man, that was like the full like test squadron, right? Explorers, all those guys who have like 1,000 people on at any time. They're going to be able to push that out. But the rest of us, I don't see that as an ability. And you can lock it behind a Pioneer, and that's still pretty doggone in game
mm-hmm.
type of content. But there's got to be in game content for smaller friend groups and organizations to kind of get after, right? Rather than these megalopolis, enormo stations that I only can imagine will take thousands, tens of hundreds of thousands of resources piled into them to make progress. So that was something that we all said, like, let's hope they all give us like a tier 1 and this is tier 3, and then maybe we can get after it too and have our fun. So,
All right.
For me, seeing the boarding demo on the station, I was like, so they have boarded the flight deck. Could we just like jettison the flight deck? We're gonna rebuild it in 3 hours.
That's right. Yeah.
Just like me knowing that I have a 3,000 person division under me, just like, oh yeah, like just yeet the whole deck. We're just gonna rebuild
just
it.
cut it
fine.
off.
It's
What people can just start raiding you, just like stealing the like you cut it off. They just tractor the thing with them, and to like, thank you for building our hangar deck now.
You'd need a lot of SRVs to move something that big. Like 10,000 SRVs swoop in, engage, and drive off in the same direction. That would be the single greatest organized effort in Star Citizen history.
And you know what? If something like that happened, I would be like, you know what? Fair enough. I'm not even mad. Just take it at this point.
Flint?
I think it's going to be interesting. The dynamics that come out of that once we have those bases, both on ground but also space stations, and being able to attack them and damage them and destroy them, and given the amount of work and effort is to build them. These are things that we that have been seen and dealt with in many games. Like some games will have like this is your window. Or you have to declare an attack and then the window opens up in 12 hours, or in the likes of Eve, it's just go for whatever you like, right? I mean, I played Eve back in the day. I was part of the massive ASCN versus Bob war back in the day, where literally like millions of dollars real value of assets were destroyed over a weekend. And when that happens in Star Citizen, I'm interested to see, first of all, the backlash, second of all, how they intend to manage the ability to damage and attack stations and balance that, right? And where we end up from that. I think it's a great thing, but I'm interested to see how we deal with the meta around kind of the loss of very valuable, very time intensive assets.
And they made it seem like it would be almost, the implication was it would be almost impossible to fully destroy the station, right? They were like, these are going to be very, very hard to damage. It's worth more of your time to board
And steal stuff.
steal and leave. So like, I mean, I'm fine with that. I think most people would be fine with that, right?
Right. But did they say capture though? Right? Could you take over a
You
station?
could possibly.
I don't
Possibly,
know.
I think.
How would you change ownership, right?
Yeah.
And they were talking about something with ships, right? You could, if you claim your ship, it would queue some type of
lockdown.
some effect. What was it?
It's like a lockout, so you
It's
couldn't.
like a lockout.
Yeah, it's like remotely
And then-
to like kill. It's like a kill switch that remotely kills the engine and stuff like that, so you can't use
And
it.
then there's supposed to be super high hack, right, to unlock it so that
Mhm.
you can actually add it to your fleet.
But you have to have a reputation with the council, and the council is the one
right.
who can give you that access to that kind of thing.
So there's well, I don't think that'll take long for Powered Orgs to have.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe you lock down your station and it requires all that effort to get it back. I don't know.
I like that's Deep Space Nine had that, where when they had to abandon Deep Space Nine, they had left all these little like code traps so that if they tried to access certain systems, it would blow up the station or do different things and stuff like that. So I like that idea. All right, so that's a good discussion section because we're over just a little bit, but we're gonna move on to the question and answer session here. Thank you so much to Space Coder. Make sure you check out the Armory and what's the new one called? Hauler. And
Look it up.
make sure you check out uee.life. We dropped some codes in there. I know Captain Flint dropped some codes in chat. I dropped some codes in chat as well, which is
I'm trying to verify my account on that one. It says no.
Yeah, the RSI site sometimes takes up to 10 minutes to publicly update when you change your bio, which is pain in the butt right now because I get so many messages saying it doesn't work, and actually you just gotta wait.
It's a great social connection site for those of you who don't know. It's when Flint pitched it to me, it was his experience on Eve that he talked about a lot with the idea, which is, you know, a lot of what we make in MMOs are friendships, you know, and connections, and those sort of connections drive us more than often gameplay. And it was funny because Luke Stevens was on, who's a pretty big YouTuber and content creator and streamer, who's worked in the industry himself as well as being a kind of a commentator, was on Space Tomatoes, a podcast the other day that I watched, and he mentioned, because he's an outsider, he's a Star Citizen backer, but he's an outsider really to a lot of these things. He says, I remember Star Citizen better than games I've played hundreds of hours of, because he remembered a time when him and his crew got together, they did a little ship show, someone died in the process, so they had a little space funeral, and he's like, I still remember that. I still remember that whole thing, and that would happen 3 years ago. I couldn't tell you what raid I did the other day in, you know, Destiny or whatever, but I remember this, and that's the sort of thing that like UE Life can help facilitate those sorts of interactions. So
yeah, for sure, and I built it specifically to tie very tightly into the RSI stuff, so it has a strong connection there. Actually, I had a good conversation with Benoit Beausejour. Said his wrong name probably. About like APIs they're looking to build, not until everything's stable, right? Because they need to support the API afterwards, but later on down the line, be able to plug in even closer. The other piece is connection to the rest of the community, which is why on the news front page, like we pull in Astro Historians articles, we pull in HubNet articles into the InFiction newsfeed. I link out to all the other projects, like Armory will be on there by the end of the day, and other projects, right? And other links like being able to add the link to your Urkel loadout to your ship. So someone can say, hey, there's your ship, click on it and go through and see what your loadout is. Like tying these things in together into one portal, but then building the glue that connects you, right? So being able to say, this is my home location. Who else lives here? What orgs make this their base? And building localized community, which is something I'm pretty excited about that I talked with Astro about previously. But yeah, I think we're already started doing that. And as these new social systems, let's take a second to talk about the social stuff they talked about at CitizenCon.
Yeah.
Because this is all like long overdue. Like, I want to hear what you guys think about the social systems and what you're most excited about.
I'll say this right now: the social systems. I am still kind of new to MMOs. I played the original WoW, and I played a couple other ones, but I've never really like gotten sunk into it. Playing Star Citizen enough, having a way to say, is everyone ready to take off? Because somebody is not on mic, or someone can't talk, or someone didn't hear the code or that stuff. So when you're waiting for that sort of situation, and they end up being like the whole like, hey, we can ready up. Is everyone ready to go? And then have it a social way for people to click yes, 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 in the group party. I was just like, that's brilliant. And someone said, "Oh yeah, that's normal." I'm like, "When is this normal? When did this? I don't even remember this from WoW. There's a ready check. I didn't know this." So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
That's
Things and
usually
stuff.
tied to like a raid.
Yeah,
You go into a menu for a raid, but yeah. But I think it would work well for ship status too.
Yeah. Well, they kind of had like the location and the status of the party member, which was very nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Like
that.
every once in a while, I play with my best friend who is. She bought the game because of me, and I feel bad.
Yeah,
And
I
she
can
plays
imagine.
it, every blue moon with me when the new patch drops, and I'm like, "Come play the new patch with me." And I do my stuff, and she's like, "Oh, I left my bedroom. Where do I go?" And I'm like, "Where you are?" She's like, I don't know. I'm in a hallway." And that thing where it tells you where that person is, because now I have learned perfectly in every landing zone based on the distance of her pip from me, to learn where she is, and I navigate her out of it. It's beautiful.
So I think what is exceptional is the org warfare or
We don't like you
individual
list.
dispute
Yeah.
type stuff. Like it's not a hard block, right? It's
Yeah.
not like you won't see them ever in game or see their texts in the chat or anything like that. But if a person that you don't get along with or you've had a negative experience with shows up and you've got them on that list or an organization, bam, you're going to see they're automatically going to come up as like red or orange, right? Which is a great feature. And then the other side of that is allies. So my organization has been in a group of organizations that call themselves an ally for years, but there's been no way to uh, actualize that in the game. And this actually will do that for you. So presumably normal neutral people will still be blue, but maybe an allied organization or individual will show up as green, right? And then so you automatically know you have reasonably positive ties with that group or organization. I think I've never seen anything quite like that in a game, and I do play lots of MMOs, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, being able to find your friends and what they're doing, that's also clutch. Yeah.
The calendar is great. I've never seen an in-game calendar for
The
events.
in-game org event calendar.
Yeah.
Yes, that is pretty cool.
It's such a weird thing to say, but like anything that doesn't make me go to an outside app to figure out what's going on, I can just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to play some games, and you pull up the app, and it's like on your like, oh, we have a like an expedition we're doing on Sunday. I forgot about that. Oh, thank you for reminding me. Weird phone.
All I hope for the calendar part, like when they were showing the new org information stuff, I could hear the collective sighs of large org leaders where they were like, "Oh God, another thing we have to maintain."
Yeah.
Just knowing how much stuff ADI has to manage the membership and the running of the org. So I'm just hoping that the calendar will be somehow linked on the website and you'll be able to import your org's Google Calendar.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's gonna be a massive pain for everyone. I just give me that one thing, because I will then never hear the end of it in staff meetings. And
I hope it pings a notification to you the day of in game. We've had not incidents, but instances where somebody in the org is playing Star Citizen off on another server, having a great time doing whatever, and we're like, they've totally forgotten we're doing a thing.
Yeah.
Right. And so if it just pings and it says, hey, your event starts in 10 minutes, they're like, what? Oh yeah. Just pings in their chat or on the banner across the top, and then they know, and that reminds them, and then they come over and join. I mean, that in and of itself is a great reminder system too, because there'll be lots of times you're playing and you just forget.
Mm-hmm.
I
because
mean,
we're all busy.
as someone who's building already an org calendar system, an event system, I'm hoping that's one of the things they put in the API, because like for all the people who do enjoy having that in game and not needing to go externally, there's also people who can't be in the game all the time and they need that external thing. So two things: one, I hope that it propagates that to Spectrum or to some web place to be able to check that, but also that we can link into that some way, like export it to a calendar or whatever, and then I can steal it and stick it in my own calendars.
Yep.
So.
All right. Well, and of course, so lastly is Atira Kel. You can find it under the same name on YouTube, right? Mostly YouTube.
Mostly YouTube, yeah.
Yeah.
All YouTube.
All YouTube. And you can also find him sometimes on Tree's Armchair Admirals and Generals podcast
right. Yep.
when that comes out. So I'm sure now that I've exposed Captain Flint as a veteran, Tree's going to start asking Captain Flint to come onto one of those shows.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So that particular community is all military retirees and or guys who served and got out, and the only challenges with Trees, I think 2 young
Twins.
babies.
Yeah, twins.
Yeah, twins. He's he, as anyone with twins is, he's very overwhelmed.
Yeah.
we haven't done it in a while, but we occasionally chat in that Discord, and I'm sure he'll pick it back up eventually when he has a chance. You can harass him about it later today.
Yeah, I will. Even though he's not coming on, unfortunately, I will.
Oh, I thought he was.
No,
I could have swore I saw his name in the.
Hence twins.
Bummer. Man, I could have swore I saw his name on the roster.
Night Cobb's on coming on later. So
okay.
So I'll let him.
Night Cobb is also another one of our veterans who jumps on podcasts from time to time.
Yeah, there's Night Cobb.
Speak of him, Flint.
Hey, happy to join anytime.
So yeah, and for those of you who have been watching, we have now raised over $1,600. We had an amazing anonymous donation of $500, and then an additional donation of $100. We also had Eternity donated $25, and Soundwave Ghost, who said happy 07, happy to do my part, Captain, did $40. So that's insane, y'all. Thank you so much for all of that. And like I said, if we get to $3,500 by the end of the stream, that will be paying for a go-kart. So that means that Gamers Outreach will be able to, the Star Citizen community will have given kids the ability to play some games while they're sick and stuck in hospitals. So, of course, I'll always leave the link to this in the top comment and in the description below for those of you who are watching this after the fact. Well, after, I'll leave the donation link up for a couple of weeks after as well, in case anybody wants to come in later and do that. So thank you again, Captain Flint, Atira Kel, and Space Coder. We're going to be moving on to do the question and answer session. And again, I'm not going to record the question and answer sessions because that would be too many videos. I've got 8 sessions to go through. But if you do want to hear the question and answer sessions, I'll leave the VOD up, and right above Space Coder's head, you will see the link to that to this VOD, so you can go through and watch that as you want on your own. And like I say every time, hope to see you Sunday in the black.